On this week's Gridiron Report, we have some Detroit Tigers trade updates, hopefully the first of many, the Lions Hall of Fame game preview, a listener voicemail, and then we get into some grit of the week. So let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The grit iron report where the stories are proud.
Well, welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast, presented by Mike Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, and Kyle, you may or may not know this, but starting on Thursday, we officially have made it. There is going to be not a single week all the way until February that we don't have football. Take a deep breath, kid. We made it.
You hear that? That is a just sigh of relief, man. Football is back. That's huge. I keep on forgetting that Hall of Fame game, even though we brought it up last week. I keep on forgetting that it's back. It's here. It's this week.
Feels early.
And also it does feel early. It's like July still, right? I think Thursday is still July 31st. So yeah, but this is so huge. Football's back. The Lions are playing on Thursday. So even though normally I wouldn't really get out of bed for a Hall of Fame game, but the Lions are in it, so I'll be tuned in absolutely. And yeah, dude, we made it. We'll be talking so much football, NFL, college on this podcast. I'm just so pumped. It's kind of the unofficial ending of summer, which is totally fine because we got football coming up. And Tyler, I think you know what we got to do. We got football on Thursday, Lions football on Thursday. I think we got to play America and Detroit's favorite game of Guess That Line.
We have to. I agree with you. Normally, if it's a Hall of Fame game, I'm just going to throw it on probably in the background, watch probably just a few drives, based on what I have going on. I'm not going to be real invested, but since it's the Lions, I'm absolutely going to be invested. I'm surprised there is a line, to be honest with you, just because it's preseason. You have no idea who's playing, how long they're going to be playing. It's these guys all trying to battle out for, a job this year, essentially. But we absolutely should play America's favorite game, Guess the Line. So if you've been with us since last season, each week, just to give you guys a little idea of how this goes, we are a Lions First podcast. Each week, Kyle and I will break down the previous week's game, what we liked, what we didn't like, anything that kind of caught our eyes. We will break down the upcoming game, and we'll usually play Guess the Line. I will usually pull up the spread and have Kyle guess the line, see how close we are, get us a good feel of how we're feeling going into this game. So Kyle, for the first time in the 2025-2026 season, guess the line of the Hall of Fame game, Detroit Lions versus the LA Chargers.
I think this might be an impossible task because one, I don't know who's playing for either team. Hall of Fame game, is that the same as week one preseason? Are they?
Yep.
I have no
It is
idea.
week
Are they do starters don't play? Do starters don't play in the preseason at all, right? They kind of went away with that.
It was announced today that Trey Lance will be starting for the LA Chargers, if that gives you any idea of who will be playing. It is week one, so week two, the rest of the teams start in week two. We're the only team in week one, so it's going to be Trey Lance. I don't think we know who's going to be starting for the Lions, but it will be against Trey Lance.
Is Trey Lance the guy? He's still, he's a top 2 pick, top 3
People
pick.
forget.
He still might be. He might be the guy. Yeah. People forget. Niners don't forget. But I'm going. I just have no idea. Detroit minus 1.5. That feels good to me.
That's a hell of a start to the spread. Guess the line season. It is Detroit Lions minus 1.5.
Stop. Yes. Okay. The people are gonna think this is fabricated. Now I feel
I don't think
bad.
This is fabricated.
Are you serious?
It is. The Detroit Lions minus 1.5. Lions money line is minus 110. Essentially, you bet $1 or you bet $10, you win $19.09. Guess the over under. So it's even more impossible because we don't know how long these guys are going to be playing. We don't know who's going to be playing. Guess the over under of the game this Thursday.
Over under 43.5.
You have way too much faith in these preseason games. These guys are all trying to fight for the over under is 32.5 for both teams combined. Right. So
all right, blind squirrel finds one nut. That's crazy though. 1.5. I'm back, baby.
If history tells us anything, this is the fourth time the Detroit Lions are playing in Canton for the Hall of Fame game, just the third time for the Chargers. Last time Detroit played in the Hall of Fame game was 1991. They beat the Denver Broncos 14-3. So not a very high scoring game there. 1991, different game back then. Last appearance for the Chargers in the Hall of Fame game was in 1994, and that was a 21-17 loss to Atlanta. So both teams not putting up many points as was expected, as is expected, haven't played in 20, 30 years for either team. So you can, it'll be interesting. It's hard to say what battles we're going to be trying to watch during this game just because it's preseason. We already got word that both Tyleik Williams, the Lions first round draft pick from the Ohio State University on the defensive line, and Tate Ratledge, we have an update on him here shortly, but both those two guys will not be playing in this game, which tells you all you need to know about how the Lions see them. They obviously see those two guys as bona fide starters, which we expected, right? That's nothing new. So those two guys will not be playing, but there still is like a number of guys that I'll be interested to kind of see. You and I were talking beforehand, is in the preseason, usually get some sort of wide receiver who pops and is trying to make that fourth or fifth, receiving position. But I know who I'm looking for. Who are you looking for, and at least this game or like the preseason in general, to see, if they can at least hang with the big dogs?
Yeah, big guy for me. And this is a guy that it was a kind of I don't know, a bit of a head scratcher when we picked him in the third round. I was on record then saying I liked the pick. Now I'm like, well, the guy has never played. And granted, I'm talking about Hendon Hooker, and you don't want your backup quarterback to ever play, right? That's horrible. But in Hendon Hooker's case, he has never even sniffed the backup role. Lions obviously, used a third round pick on him, and you think that for that, you're kind of maybe grooming him to be the QB of the future. Certainly, you use a third round pick, you want him to at least be your backup, right? He hasn't sniffed that, like I said. So I'm looking. This is a big season for Hendon Hooker. If he has like any future with the Detroit Lions, I think this is a big preseason for him to like show that. Yeah, I mean maybe he's not going to be the guy of the future. I think we're pretty confident on that, just given that he can't really even see a backup role. But I would love to see him maybe solidify himself as that backup role, be a guy that can be a plug and play if Jared Goff were to go down for a short amount of time. Obviously long term, if Jared goes down, God forbid, the season's probably over. But you would love to have a guy in Hendon Hooker where he can at least go in and win you a game if you need it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking for Hooker. I know you said that for Hendon Hooker. I know you said that we're not really sure who's going to start for the Lions on Thursday. I'm hoping that it's him. I hope that he gets some minutes. He deserves, some time to continue to, prove himself. But I think that the clock's ticking for Hendon Hooker.
He was interesting because you mentioned you were a fan of the pick. I thought it was high. He was obviously sliding. Like someone had to stop the slide. He was kind of projected to go end of the first round, definitely second round. We ended up stopping the slide. Issues with him was that he was coming off an ACL tear. He was already pretty old. Coming out of college, he was in a very quarterback-friendly system at Tennessee, so you thought maybe some of his numbers were inflated. I agree with you. It's time to nut up or shut up for Hendon Hooker.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not going to be the backup guy, every year he's kind of been at least brought up at the trade deadline. Is he a throw-in piece that can sweeten the deal or something? Because maybe another team sees him as their either at least their backup QB, who again, like you said, can come in and win you a game or two, or God forbid, maybe there's a team out there that sees even more in him and he can be some sort of a future piece. At least at the very least, he needs to be some sort of a chess piece for us to use at the trade deadline. And everything I've seen during the training camp so far is that he's been working with the third team, kind of behind Kyle Allen, who is our other QB on roster. I just pulled up the Detroit Lions depth chart. Kyle Allen is the third a QB on the list right now. It is Hendon Hooker at second behind Jared Goff there. So, that's definitely the number one, battle that everyone's going to be tuning in to see. Like you said, in a perfect world, he would be, because he is talented. He's just older, has never really had to show what he can do. So you really hope he's going to be that backup guy that Jared goes down. I mean, Jared had that terrible ankle roll last season. If he did need to go down for a week just to stay healthy for the playoffs, you'd hope Hendon can come in and do that. So he's definitely someone I'm going to be watching. Obviously, you're going to be looking at all the other draft picks that will be playing outside of Ratledge, and Miles Frazier went down with an injury, so he won't be playing. Tyler Williams, we just mentioned, won't be playing. But like Isaac Tesla, he's going to be a guy that I hope is going to be getting a good amount of run so we can see what he's been doing. I feel like we're getting video after video coming out of Lincoln Park there, or Allen Park, not Lincoln Park, Allen Park.
Yeah, Lincoln Park too. We're getting metal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that, but him mossing people and playing great. So you hope to see, hit what he can do and prove that maybe that wasn't such a reach. So those are the two guys that I'm looking for. And like I said, just kind of the miscellaneous other undrafted guys that are making a name. There was Dan Campbell named one guy out in particular. I think his name was Keith Cooper. He was a defensive line piece, undrafted this year, who I guess is having a fantastic camp. So I'll definitely be looking at a guy like him as well.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. You brought up Isaac Tesla. He's been making some moves in the Twitter sphere. There's been some ripples, man, and the Lions PR is doing a really good job of making him look like, I don't know, the next Randy Moss or something. He's had some sick catches, and he looks fast. He looks great in shorts, looks great in pads, and yeah, the route running looks good. So hey, I've pretty much seen it all. I've pretty much seen enough. I'm all in on Isaac Tesla.
Yeah. So the other sort of things that we have as it relates to the Detroit Lions. First and foremost, Graham Glasgow was named the starting center. So a few weeks ago, you and I kind of broke that down a little bit. They were running Tate Ratledge as the first team center for the first week. And then the next week, they kind of flip-flopped. They moved him to guard, and Graham Glasgow was running first team center reps. You and I were going back and forth. You were kind of hoping, at least from my opinion of what you were saying and what I was feeling from you, you were kind of hoping that Graham would take over that center and we could put, because he's played center before. Tate had never played center in college, outside of some spring training stuff that he did with the Bulldogs there. So that was announced that Graham will be starting at center. So we at least have someone familiar at center there for Jared Goff. And then Tate will be starting at guard. So the offensive line is starting to take form. Still a lot of question marks on how they will perform, but at least we have a veteran, to be snapping to Jared that we know of now.
I think it's huge. We touched on it. I pretty much called that. Not that it was hard to call. It makes so much sense, right? Like you're not just going to throw a guy who's never played center and is a rookie in that center role. It just would make no sense at all to me. So I'm glad to see Graham there. He has been, thrown in there at times. He's looked okay at times at center. He struggled at times at center. Obviously Glasgow, he's not a natural center, so he's not going to be perfect. So, I wouldn't be surprised if as the season goes on, maybe they try out new things. You would hate to see too much ruffling of the feathers in the offensive line. You'd like to see continuity when it comes to the O-line, but maybe you throw a Rutledge at center as the season goes on. Maybe he gets more reps at first team in practice. I don't really know, but at least right now I'm glad to see Glasgow at center, Rutledge at guard. I think that's day one. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with you. So we got that release. We obviously had some guys that we mentioned won't be playing in the Hall of Fame game. The other thing that we have to chat about with the Detroit Lions, ESPN over the last few weeks, you and I were talking about it, pretty much a dead period with sports, with the All-Star games and stuff. So ESPN, they were releasing, I don't know if it was day by day or week by week, their rankings of the different position players across the NFL. So I have some of the Detroit Lions numbers and our star players and where they clocked in according to ESPN's position ranks. So I have these written down. I want to go through, we don't need to go through all of them because there's a total of, I think, 12 Detroit Lions players who made it onto their list or at least were in the honorable mentions for their position. So I want to go through a few of these guys. I want to get your guess at where you think ESPN ranked them across the league according to their position. So we'll start with the slot merchant himself, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where do you think ESPN ranked him as wide receiver across the league?
Across the league, wide receiver 4.
No, they were much lower, not much lower than him. They have him as the 6th overall receiver. I only wrote down our guys, so I don't know who was ahead of him. I know it would be, I believe it was CeeDee Lamb, Chase, Justin Jefferson, a few guys. Nico Collins, I think, came in above him. So a few guys above him coming in at number 6. And I when we're going through those other names, I guess I kind of like, I'm not going to be super upset about that just because those other guys, I think, do different things than Amon-Ra St. Brown. But yeah, they had him at 6th overall.
I think that you nailed it. Those 3 guys that you mentioned are the 3 guys that I would have above ARSB, and I'd have him 4. But Yeah, I mean, I get 6 if you throw in maybe like an AJ Brown ahead, but yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, St. Brown can do he's the most dependable, I think the most dependable receiver in the league. Like if you need a first down, I'm going to St. Brown probably over everyone except, not named, probably Jamar Chase and maybe JJ. So yeah, I have him way up there, but I get it.
What about so again, we can go through these. Jahmyr Gibbs, running back rank in the NFL. What are we looking at?
I'm putting him 2. I'm putting him behind Saquon. That's a homer pick. I'm putting him 2. He's the second best running back in the league. He's amazing.
ESPN did not do the homer pick. They had him at 3. Again, I don't have the other list in front of them. I think it was Saquon and then Bijan. Yeah, which I just learned.
Bijan?
Everyone in the world has been saying wrong. Everyone is saying Bijan. Apparently, it's Bijan Robinson. So Bijan Robinson, second best running back in the league. Jahmyr Gibbs, third best running back in the league. And I agree with you. I think, and we're splitting hairs, I think, at that point, but I would put him at 2 as well.
A lot of people put Bijan Robinson ahead of Gibbs, and I totally get it. I do think that Gibbs is in the better offense, so he probably shines a little bit more. But yeah, I just think his one cut is just a little bit better than Bijan. So
we'll just get to a few of these last ones. Again, there was, I think, 12 to 13 different Lions players that ended up being ranked. On the defensive line, Aleem McNeil, where would you put him in the top 10 for defensive tackles in the NFL?
That's tough, man. I don't like pretend to know all of the tackles in the NFL.
They slide under the radar a lot.
Yeah, and when you got, guys like Aaron Donald who retired, like, I mean, who is like, I don't know. I just feel like DNs are like the guys that you really talk about. So I don't even know. Maybe Aleem McNeil, I think he's top 5, maybe 5, but that's more of a guess.
It was a trick question. He didn't make the top 10. He was an honorable mention. So I agree with you. I don't think I can name like 5 other defensive tackles. So I think he's fantastic PFF wise. So I would have put him top 5, but he was an honorable mention. Moving over to the edge, Hutch. Where is Hutch on this list of edge players in the NFL?
Well, where is he on my list? Because ESPN, you're a bunch of fucking douchebags. He's number 1 for me, but I know that ESPN isn't putting him 1.
This is one to get mad about. ESPN has Hutch as the 7th best edge rusher in the NFL. I remember reading through this. They were basing that a lot on his injury and what he's going to come back from. But they had Myles Garrett in front of him. They had Nick Bosa in front of him. They had Trey Hendrickson in front of him. They had a number of guys ahead of him that I agree with you. He's got to be top 3, and he's not 3. So say what you will.
So, I mean, clickbait. They're doing it for clicks and rage bait, putting it at 7. So and here I am raging. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
Congrats ESPN. You got me.
So Branch came in. I'll just go through this. Branch came in as the 2nd best safety in the NFL. Kirby Joseph as the 5th best safety in the NFL. Sam Laporta, 3rd best tight end in the NFL. Penei Sewell, the 2nd best offensive tackle in the NFL. Jack Campbell coming in as an honorable mention outside linebacker. And then the last one I'll have you guess, Jared Goff. Where's our sweet prince landing in the NFL for QBs?
He's not top 10. I wish that he was.
You got to have more faith in our boy. Jared Goff coming in as the 8th overall QB in the NFL. And I believe it was right around Jordan Love. I can't remember if they had Jordan Love beating him out, but I have seen a lot of lists that have Jordan Love beating Jared Goff at the moment, and I just think that's absolute horseshit. So I think 8, if they had Jordan Love above him, I'd put him even at 7.
Honestly, Matt, props ESPN for putting him at 8. I thought that they wouldn't even have him sniff in the top 10, so that's on me. Who do they have ahead of Penei? It couldn't be Trent Williams.
Lane Johnson.
Lane Johnson. Okay. Yeah.
And that was the big thing last year, because I think Penei won the award for best offensive lineman. I think it was like the first year that they actually gave an award to best offensive lineman or something along that nature. And Penei won it. And there was a whole big thing about Lane. Lane was pretty butthurt about it. And then you break down the PFF numbers, and Penei was a better offensive lineman. It was a whole thing. Lane, but they had Lane.
Buddy, you won the Super Bowl. Like, what are you even worried about that? Like,
and you're much older. Give it get out of the league. Give it to our guy.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I thought it's always fun to get mad at some rankings. I think pretty much the only thing we can really get, again, Aleem McNeil being an honorable mention, I think it's pretty weak. Hutch being 7th best edge in the league is pretty weak as well. Again, they probably base that mostly off of his injury, but it's always fun to get mad at some rankings. So
yeah,
as we get into the season,
on this podcast, we get mad. We like it.
Yeah, exactly. So the other last two things with the Lions, so we do have a listener voicemail. Let's get into that here right now.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, got a question for you. So there's all this hype about the Detroit Lions and making it to the Super Bowl. And my question is, hypothetically speaking, there is like a Detroit curse, if you will. Um, for example, in '89, the Pistons won the championship, and then we immediately lost Rick Mahorn to the extended draft. Um, in '97, the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup, and a few days later, Konstantinov got severely hurt and was out. Um, my question is, hypothetically speaking, would you guys be willing to have a Lions Super Bowl with the chance of losing one of our major players to a draft or to something along that line? Uh, just curious on your thoughts.
All right. Hey, thanks for the listener voicemail there. Super unique hypothetical. Admittedly, it's not something I've ever thought about, but it's so true. There's so much talk about like the Pistons were on the verge of somewhat of a dynasty, right? And then the expansion draft happened and we kind of got screwed that way. And then, we talked about the Red Wings when we did our sleeper draft a few weeks ago and the tragedy that was Konstantinov and the limousine car accident that the Red Wings still had great success after that, but it was a super, a major tragedy. It's a great question, and it actually kind of almost leads us into our next segment about the Tigers and with the trade deadline. But it's like, how much are you willing to mortgage the future in order to win right now? And it's different than the Tigers, obviously, because you're not giving up the farm system and stuff. And just for the sake of the argument, I'm going to say, we talked about Konstantinov, take away injury aspect. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt. So I'm not going to just get a Super Bowl and have someone get hurt the next year. I'm going to take away. I'm going to say it's like an expansion draft or something. I think I'm taking it. I think just because Detroit has not won anything in so long, if we were the Chiefs, if we were the Patriots, the Buccaneers or some team that has won at least in recent memory or quite a bit in our lifetime, then I would think like I'm not going to give up someone of major substance to a draft or to a different team or something just to win one and possibly mortgage our future just to get that one. But because we have never even been there, like I think if you can promise me we're going to win this year, but then next year Jahmyr Gibbs is gone to a different team, I think I'm taking that deal.
Yeah. The second that you said, we're throwing injuries aside and we're not going down that hypothetical, it becomes pretty easy for me. And thanks for the voicemail. I believe that was listener Greg. I know your voice, listener Greg, and thanks for another voicemail, man. This is a really great one. Yes, I'm giving up whatever, man. Like to have a Super Bowl. I mean, football's my favorite sport. Fairly certain football is your favorite sport. We've been watching it our whole lives. We've been watching just a shit product our whole lives in the NFL. We've had some success for the Spartans. We have not seen a natty. We've come maybe slightly close, but not really in the playoff there. So yeah, to be at the culmination of the sport, which is the Super Bowl, and to have the Lions, hoist that Lombardi trophy, I think name your price. Does that mean, if Sun God is gone the next season, if he's going to another team, if Aiden's gone, of course that would suck, but Super Bowls, they hang forever, man. And especially to a team that has never even been to one. I would give up pretty much anything. I'd give up my own job. I'm just going to put that out there, man. I would get fired for a Lions Super Bowl. I know I can get another job. I can't say the same for the Lions winning the Super Bowl. They've never done it. I've worked for a lot of my life. Lions have never won a Super Bowl. So I would give up a ton.
That is so brave of you. Thank you for saying that. I will let the Lions know. That is so brave of you. Thank you so much. No, I agree with you. I think it's like I would even go one further. I mean, because I agree with you. Like it's like we haven't won forever, and it definitely changes if we were this system, this franchise that has won before, and again, then we're not so much as like in a win now mode because we've never had that before. I would go as far as like the better question might even be like how many years of missing the playoffs and being the Lions from 2006 to 2012 or whatever however terrible those years were, how many years would you do to give just one Super Bowl this year? Would you do a decade of missing the playoffs and in a terrible fashion for a Super Bowl this year? Like that's how far I would go. Not just one player. I would go like a decade
God.
of terrible football for a Super Bowl.
See, that's a completely different question, and I think it's a lot more difficult because you can always lose a couple players and your team could still be good. Hypothetically,
Yeah, it's a
you
big
could
question
win the
mark. You
Super Bowl
still
again
could.
the next year. We don't know. We're playing in hypothetical land. We love it in hypothetical land. But if you're going to tell me that you have a decade of shit football, I'm still heavily considering it. But at that point, I don't know. I love the sport, and to know that we're not going to make the playoffs for a decade, why even watch then? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately I'm not doing that. I'm continuing to believe in the process and hoping that they make it and win one anyways without sacrificing, because yeah, I need that hope in my life.
Yeah, I think because if you were to know you weren't making the playoffs for the next 10 years, I agree with you. It takes away any reason to watch. If you could say like, okay, in the next 10 years, you're going to make the playoff 2 years. So out of those 10 years, so like there's still a chance in that season you could make it. There's a reason to watch. Then maybe we're talking about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great hypothetical. I really never really thought about it, but it's so true with Detroit. There's a lot of different Detroit curses. And I think that definitely has to be discussed about one of them. I mean, back-to-back terrible situations immediately after great success and have set ourselves up for so much future success. So it's a great hypothetical. It's a great voicemail. Again, as we get into NFL season, we're back into our Lions, nitty gritty kind of stuff, our bread and butter, honestly. So make sure you guys are calling into that listener voicemail, leaving us your hypotheticals, leaving us your questions about different players, different guys, what we think of them, different starting lineups, stuff like that. We love to break that down for you guys as we go throughout the season.
And that number is 313-306-7939. Please leave a voicemail.
Yep. You can go anonymous. You can leave your name, whatever it is. We'll make sure to play that and listen to it and discuss it on the podcast. So the last thing about the Detroit Lions and the NFL season, as we do get into it, I want to give just a quick plug. As we get into the NFL season, I'm going to be doing a little small segment trying to find the absolute best place in Detroit for NFL football, for wings and beer. I have a list of different places that supposedly had the best wings and beer in Detroit. I'm looking for not only just the best wings, not only just the best wings that pair with beer, but the best place to go and watch the NFL game, have some wings. So each week I'll be going to different places, again, that have been listed as the best place for wings and beer in Detroit. I'll do a quick review on those. So that'll be posted each week to our social medias, to our TikTok, Instagram, social medias. I may or may not give a little review on our show each week. That's yet to be seen. So if you do want to stay up to date on those, make sure you're following us on social media. And then if you have a place that you know or truly believe is the best place for wings and beer to watch a Lions game in Detroit, send them our way. Again, I got a big old list of places that supposedly are the best. If you think yours is the best, get it on my list and I'll go out there and take a look at it. So I wanted to give just a quick plug as we get into the actual NFL season. Send that list over to me and I'll start reviewing it. Together, we'll find the best wings in Detroit.
Hell yes, dude! I'm so pumped for that segment as well. Obviously, I need to live vicariously through you, me living in Houston, Texas. So I'm pumped for you to explore the streets of Detroit, man. Get down and dirty. Get to those great wing spots, some hidden gems, maybe some just amazing game day atmospheres and environments. I'm pumped for that series. So yeah, follow us on our socials and we can follow Tyler along on the ride.
I think maybe we should start at Hooters and then probably week 2 we'll go to Twin Peaks and we'll see how we start from there. But yeah, so send us all those recommendations. Let's keep moving it forward. As we had last week was the kind of the preview to the MLB trade deadline. We gave you our guys of who we think, A, who is most likely and most commonly linked to the Detroit Tigers, and then B, who we would like to see in a Detroit Tiger uniform over the next week or so. We have slowly started to get that results kind of trickling in over the last few days. So the Tigers did make a move. Before we get into the actual trade deadline, that move they made, kind of what we want to see moving forward. I noticed that you're wearing all black. I'm personally wearing all black just as a homage to the Tigers, because it was going to be, in my mind, this was going to be a funeral show for the Tigers. We were dead in the water. We were absolutely playing terrible. Now, I will say we are on a 3-game winning streak. I am so ready to be hurt again, but the numbers, they were not pretty for quite some time there. So the Tigers offense pre-MLB All-Star break, so for average, we were 10th in the league, hitting at 252. OPS, we were 6th in the league, hitting 746. Runs, we were 6th in the league with an average of 4.97 runs per game. Post-MLB All-Star break, and this is honestly, we could probably even go back before the break, because we started that slide before we actually broke for the All-Star break. We were dead last in the MLB in batting average at 181. We were dead last in the MLB in OPS at 510, and we were dead last in the MLB at runs per game at 1.78 runs per game. So we were dead on arrival. We're both wearing black. It was going to be my funeral for the Tigers, but damn it, they brought me back in.
We're back, baby. We are so back. 3-game win streak. And yeah, I do now remember you texting me like 4 days ago to wear black. This was totally unintentional, and I think this might even be a dark blue. I don't know if it's coming through on my camera, but yes, the team very much was dead, and they really needed this 3-game win streak. The bats have come alive a little bit. I think, granted, they're playing Arizona, so not the best team, but Arizona, not a bad team either. Not a team to, shake your head at or anything. Yeah, I think they put up 12 runs or somewhere along that. They raked 10 runs, whatever it was. They needed it really badly, because scoring 1.78 runs per game is it's just it's not going to get it done. You're going to lose a ton of games that way. You're basically the Rockies, but worse if you're putting up 1.78 a game. So yes, it's great to see a 3-game win streak. They did make some trades. We can talk about that in a little bit, or at least one trade. But yeah, I need to see wins on the board right now, because even though they are, 8-9 games up in the Central, it seemed like all hell was breaking loose, and they might never win another game, and they were going to cough up the Central. Granted, they still could, but winning 3 games is a whole lot better than losing 3. So I'll take it, and we're going to keep going.
Yeah, we're going to keep going. So I have the numbers in front of us of the last 3 on this 3-game winning streak, and it is the world's smallest sample size, but damn it, that was such a bad slip we were on. I'll take a 3-game sample size. So this doesn't have tonight's game. Again, you just mentioned, I think they put up 12 runs. They ended up winning, I think it was 12-2, I believe. But over the last 2 games so outside that third we just won, our batting average jumped to 303. Our OPS was 833. We had 10 hits, 7.5 runs per game. 1.5 home runs per game. So all these numbers, 7.5 runs per game is obviously a whole hell of a lot better than 4.97, or excuse me, than 1.79. It's even better than the 4.97 that we were having for the first half of the season, which we were playing so well. So that's on top of that's not even including the game which we put up 12 tonight. So we are back. Now, that is not including the trade that we did make. So we went over last week the different guys in which we would like to see the Tigers kind of be looking at. We talked about Eugenio Suarez. We talked about Merrill Kelly. We talked about David Bednar. We can get into those guys in a few minutes, because there is stuff to talk about that. But the Detroit Tigers did make a move that really I didn't see coming. I don't think a lot of people really saw coming, because it doesn't quite make a whole bunch of sense. But the Detroit Tigers traded 19-year-old first baseman / catcher Enrique Jimenez to the Minnesota Twins in a rare intra-division trade, which is very interesting, because a lot of the guys that are available right now are in our division, and it's just so hard to get intra-division trades to go through. But they ended up doing it. We traded Enrique Jimenez to the Twins for right-handed pitcher Chris Paddock. Going out, I guess let's start with Enrique Jimenez. He was the Detroit Tigers' 12th ranked prospect, depending on what publication you were reading. Currently, he was hitting .250 with 6 home runs, 32 RBIs, and it had a 7.79 OPS in 48 games in Detroit's rookie league down in Florida. He's a switch hitter, catcher, a little bit undersized. Again, he kind of was someone to keep an eye on, who was noted at the beginning of the season as someone who possibly could make some noise. At the very least, people thought he'd be a very serviceable backup catcher. But he just didn't match up with our timeline right now, being all the way down in rookie ball down in Florida. Didn't make sense. Looking at what we got in return, Chris Paddock, 6'5", 29-year-old right-hand pitcher, has a career 4.49 ERA and a 1.208 WHIP. This year, pretty much exactly the same. This year in general, he has a 4.95 ERA and a 1.27 WHIP. Interesting. Again, I mentioned we didn't really see this coming, because he's really not a swing and miss arm. He's a guy who is very surgical about where he throws it. He has a 17.6 strikeout percentage this season, which is a career low. So he already isn't a strikeout throwing, flamethrower bullpen arm. And he just in general is having an even worse season in that regard this season. And that's exactly what Detroit needs. We need a real swing and miss arm, and that's not what he is. So kind of was out of nowhere. He's a fly ball merchant, so that kind of plays to Comerica Park. It seems like, it's a very pitcher-friendly park. It's a very deep field. So he possibly could see those numbers get boosted when he's pitching in Comerica Park. But it's not moving the needle. It does make sense if you still had the guys in your rotation that we'll get to in a few seconds that we maybe won't have for a few weeks. So he could be that middle inning reliever, just eat up some innings. He's a guy who's been in the playoffs before, so he can just kind of be a bullpen guy. But on top of the guys that we lost due to injuries, he's going to be thrusted into that starting position. And so it just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, in my opinion.
This one's really interesting because the news of the trade broke before the news of Reese Olson broke. So, at the time, I'm looking at this and thinking, all right, this guy, he's pretty good. Slot him in the lineup, and he'll probably help us down the stretch. And now with the Reese Olson injury, and I'm wondering, I'm assuming that the team knew about the Reese Olson injury well before that this trade was made. But for me, it's like, well, now you need Chris Paddock to be a big contributor because you lost Reese Olson to, at the very least, the regular season. And I mean, he's probably done for the season, right? Like, it's just 60-day IL, but, with a shoulder strain, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You could risk further injury there. So yeah, it sucks to see Reese go down. And now you need Chris Paddock to probably be your, that number 3 guy, slot into with the injuries that the Tigers have had. He's got to be your number 3 guy, and he's got to be a guy you're going to get some starts out of down the stretch, regular season, playoffs. So yeah, my outlook is not great on it. He's a decent pitcher. He's a pretty good pitcher, but we're asking a lot out of Chris Paddock, especially with the Reese Olson injury, and I think it's not nearly enough now. If you think about where we were before the trade, where we were before the Reese Olson injury, we're still worse, and that's no slight to Paddock, but when you slot one guy in and you lose another guy who's better to injury, your team got worse, right? So we need to do a lot more.
Yeah, it doesn't move the needle for me. If this is the only move that the Detroit Tigers make, which I am praying to all that is holy, it is not. I give it, like, the trade deadline, like a C-, if not a little bit worse, just because he doesn't make, again, he's not that swing and miss bullpen arm that we're missing. He's going to be thrown into a higher leverage position in this rotation, like you said, due to the injuries. So the one thing with him is that he's already had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and he's shown this season he hasn't missed a single of his 21 starts. So he's shown to be and proven to be durable. So, like, you can hang your hat on that, but it's just not necessarily what we need. Again, we didn't sell the farm or anything like to get him. I think the Twins are probably happy that they were able to even get Enrique Jimenez for him, just because, like, there was a time that he was pitching extremely terribly this season and there was probably no market for him whatsoever. So the Twins are happy to get at least something for him. We didn't give up that much. Like, I'm not worried about the return. I'm just worried that this is it. And I don't think it will be. Hopefully next week we come on and we're saying, yeah, that was clearly just like setting the table, or just something that was like not terrible, not super happy about, and it just so happened. But it's something that we definitely need to now wait and see. Like, okay, don't let this be the final move in what we're doing this season.
Yeah, for sure. It can't be the final move unless they're saying, we're punting to next year and we don't care about this year, which I think would be just such a mistake, especially with Skubal still under contract this year. Like, you gotta do a little bit more there. So
100%.
Yeah, that's where we are with trade deadline. We talked about Reese Olson already. It sucks. Probably out for the season, but as of right now, 60-day IL. So the team, the Tigers have not officially ruled him out for the postseason, but still such a significant blow. Reese is having a great season, a breakout season, 3.15 ERA, 65 strikeouts and 68 innings pitched. So wishing him the best of luck in his recovery and hopefully coming back stronger than ever for next season at the very least. But that sucks. We do have a couple other injury updates. Parker Meadows, 10-day IL with a hamstring injury. He has really struggled, and like he's still, throughout his career, it's really young, but he just has proven that he can't stay on the field right now, which does suck because he showed sparks, especially last season, of being that guy who can come up clutch hits, very clutch in the field, one of the best fielders that the Tigers have. So, yeah, sucks to see him struggle, sucks to see him injured again, hamstring injury, but not all is lost. Carey's back, right?
Carey is back. Carey, we talked about him last week and how he might himself be the bat addition that the Tigers need. They're looking for that power bat in the middle of the lineup that they're missing, and he himself could be that. He has been nagged by a hamstring injury all season. Those are things that like I personally am still concerned that like he's just not over with it. It seems like he'd come back for like 2 games and then he'd go back down with it, and it's just because it's so nagging throughout the entire season that sometimes it takes an entire offseason to come back from. Now, Carey is back. I think he's played 2 games so far since coming back. When he did play, he ended up, I think he was hitless in his first game back the other day. Tonight, he went 3 for 5. So had a good night tonight. But even when you look back at his game yesterday or the day before, his first game back, he went hitless, but he still forced the Arizona Diamondbacks manager to make a bullpen move because he is still Kerry Carpenter. He still can crush balls. You need to make a move. And so that changed the whole dynamic of the lineup. And then AJ was able to then hit Kerry Carpenter for someone else and came in and got a hit. So like, even though he went hitless in that game, it still changed the entire dynamic just having him in that lineup. So it's something that like you said, him having him back, even just generally, and having him in that lineup is something that might help this team. And it might be who knows, it might be the only bat that we end up getting back for, the trade deadline. But even that alone is going to help this team tremendously.
Yeah, it's huge. Shout out Kerry Carpenter, Kerry Bonds. One more shout out too, dude. Troy Melton, my grid of the week from last year, who really just got ripped last week. I gave him kind of a more of a premature grid of the week because it was his first start the day after we recorded. Got ripped, came right back out 2 nights ago as you're listening to this podcast now. I think 7 innings pitched, a number of strikeouts too. 0. I think he had 0 earned runs, maybe 1 earned run, whatever it was. He pitched awesome. Sorry, I don't have the stats up in front, but just wanted to give a shout out to T as in Troy for really coming back and having my back and proving that he did deserve that grid of the week.
Yeah, shout out to him. We'll get into him here shortly as a little preview there. But yeah, so as we get into, if you were listening to this on Wednesday, there may or may not be even more Tigers news that have come up since we've recorded this. I really hope there is. It does sound like, we know the guys that are out there and available. Eugenio Suarez, as we mentioned, as pretty much the main bat that everyone wants. Now, it is interesting a little bit because Will Vest in the 9th inning of the game the other night hit Eugenio Suarez on the index finger, I believe, literally as the game was ending, and everyone across the league held their breath. He got x-rays. It was negative. There was no break or fracture or anything, but there was quite a lot of swelling. So he sat out the game tonight on Tuesday night, but that was definitely interesting on Eugenio Suarez. The other news coming out, guys like David Bednar, these are guys that are necessarily, they're the best available. They're not guys that we talked about would want to really sell the farm for. The asking price for all these guys reportedly is all astronomical. Like for David Bednar, apparently the Pirates are saying at a minimum they want a top 5 prospect from that organization. Tigers have already come out and said our entire top 5 are absolutely untouchable. Don't call about them. That's what you and I had said, that we're not willing, just based on who's out there, to giving up really anyone from the top 5. I would said maybe I would go like 8 to 10. But that's what the going rate is at the moment for these guys that are out there on the market, that they're asking for at least a top 5 guy. There's a few other guys that are asking for a top 5 guy and a player already in the MLB, a rookie, a second year kind of guy that's already making a name for himself. So the asking price for these guys is pretty astronomical at the moment. Obviously, as we get closer to the deadline, the sellers are going to start coming down on their price. The buyers are probably going to up what they're willing to part ways with. So it'll be interesting. I pray we didn't give up. If you're listening to this, we didn't give up any top 5 prospects or anything like that. But it'll be interesting, to say the least, as to who ends up donning the Old English D over the next few days.
Yeah, I think the key difference there, asking price versus market price, or because it's completely different. These teams can, they can ask the moon, right? But if no one's willing to give it to you, well, that's not actually the market price. So it'll be really interesting to see, because I think that even a good pitcher like Bednar, like a top 5 prospect. Well, okay, first of all, like a top 5 prospect for the Tigers is very different than a top 5 prospect for any other team in the majors, just because our farm system is so loaded. So maybe our 7th best prospect, it could be better than some teams' 2nd best prospect. So that all comes into play too. But yes, I'm with you. Hopefully they don't give up too much, but hopefully they do get some reinforcements. So I know we're kind of kind of playing both sides there, and you pretty much can't have both, but we're hoping for both there.
You just reminded me by saying the word reinforcements. We might have some reinforcements coming our way down in the minor leagues as Alex Cobb made his second rehab start for the Michigan Whitecaps. He went 2 innings today, gave up 1 hit. That 1 hit was a home run, so not great, but he struck out 4. He now has a minor league, or I guess I should say just this season, ERA of 1.42 in his 2 starts in the minor leagues. He's 0-2 down there with the Michigan Whitecaps. Maybe Alex Cobb will come back for the postseason and be lights out, and these starting rotation issues won't be a problem. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
15 million Al. That's what his friends call him back home. Yeah, we'll see. I want to hold my breath. I've said enough about Alex Cobb. Just get healthy, buddy.
Yeah, get healthy, because hey, I would be extremely happy to be wrong about our thoughts on that contract and everything. Yeah, a lot to talk about the Tigers. Next week, we will definitely be breaking down the results of the trade deadline, not only talking about what the Tigers ended up doing or not doing, but also kind of, it's equally as important as watching what the Yankees are doing, watching what the Blue Jays are doing, watching these other teams in the American League doing, because if we're not getting better, that technically probably means that they're getting better, because someone has to buy on all these guys. So we'll definitely be breaking down the landscape of the American League next week, how we feel about the Detroit Tigers and everything. So a lot more to come as it relates to both of them. But you want to wrap up the show with some grid of the week?
Let's do it. Let's go. Grid of the week. My grid of the week is Eminem.
Okay.
Eminem.
Okay.
I don't know if you have seen Happy Gilmore 2 yet. I don't know if you've watched that.
I've seen half of it. I've seen half of it twice, actually. I've seen half of it twice. I stopped watching it midway twice over the weekend.
Okay. You may not have seen the absolutely pivotal role that Eminem has played in Happy Gilmore 2. I won't give any spoilers away. M may or may not have been tossed into a lake and eaten by crocodiles. Again, no spoilers there. Anything could have happened, but yeah, I think he gave a quick shout out to Detroit as that was happening. So yeah, grid of the week, Eminem. Thanks for continuing to shed a good light on Detroit.
I did not get that far in the movie, so I'll definitely have to take a look at it. I had heard he was in there. He was in the movie. Damn near everyone was in that movie. There was something like 75 different cameos. Did you like the movie in general?
Honestly, I didn't love it. There were parts that definitely made me laugh and definitely made me smile. And I thought that the acting from the professional golfers, it wasn't horrible. I thought it was going to be worse, if I'm going to be honest. But in general, I don't know, man. I just didn't think it was a very good movie in general. But I did laugh at parts and did smile at parts.
Okay. And these sequels like that, in which it's been 20 years since it first came out, and that's kind of all you're hoping for. You're just hoping for a few good laughs, a decent storyline, something that's I'm not mad I watched that, just dumb and made me laugh a few times. So that's really all you can ask for. But yeah. I saw there were so many different cameos involved in there. I think Eminem was the only one related to Detroit. You had Travis Kelce and, as you mentioned, all the professional golfers and Bad Bunny, a bunch of different guys. He was the only one from Detroit, right? I don't think any Lions made it in there.
No, I don't think so. And I will say, Bad Bunny might have, sneakily stole that movie. He was actually pretty good in it. And his part was bigger than probably any other cameo.
Yeah, I got to the beginning of his part, so I'll have to finish that movie. I know my wife wanted to watch that too, so we'll watch it probably this weekend. But it's a great, not to lose track of the grid of the week, that was Eminem. I love that. Eminem always supporting the Detroit Lions. He'll be there opening season. So shout out to Eminem. My grid of the week, you already brought him up. You already got ahead of this and gave him grid of the week last week. I'm going to give it to Troy Melton. Now, when you gave it to him last week, as you mentioned, it was a little premature. It was the dog days of summer. We were kind of grasping at straws there. You gave it to him. He then proceeded to go out and just get shelled by the lowly Pittsburgh Pirates. He ended up losing the game. He had 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 runs, all of them earned. Gave up 2 home runs, walked 2 guys. Not a great outing for the kid. And then he kind of bounced back and had his first game at Detroit, at Comerica. And played a really, really great game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he went 7 innings that game against the Diamondbacks, gave up 5 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. So really just turned it around in a time that we really need somebody to step up. Because, to be honest with you, the young guy that we were hoping to be watching at this time of year was Jackson Jobe, and we don't have that. So Troy Melton's taking a step up and doing that. Now it will be interesting. Obviously, Troy Melton has been included in a lot of these trade packages that we were talked about because he is a guy who people thought was right on the doorstep of the MLB. Performed pretty well in the minor leagues, but was not on our top. I think it was like right about 10, so he was barely in the top 10. So he was a guy that was included in a lot of trades, mock trades and everything. So it'll be interesting to see if team sees that outing and says like, okay, we want him or something. It'll be interesting in that regard. It'll also be interesting to watch him moving forward if he does stay with Detroit, because I loved what I saw from him against the Diamondbacks, but he gave up a lot of loud outs, a lot of warning track balls that, like, if it isn't such a hitter-friendly ballpark, maybe we're looking at more of a stat line from the Pittsburgh Pirates game. But his stuff did look really good, and there's a lot to build on. So shout out to the kid. I believe he's 6'4", 24 years old. So a lot to build on, a lot of great stuff from Troy Melton. So you gave it to him last week. I'm going to give it to him this week.
What a hoss, dude. Rookie, 2 starts. He's got 2 grits of the week. That's huge, man. Shout out Troy Melton.
Now, is he a merchant of not a lot else going on in Detroit sports, or is he actually deserving? I think it's 50-50.
People are saying that Troy Melton, he's a grit of the week merchant in the dog days of summer. I don't know. I'm not saying it, Troy. People are saying it.
People are saying it. But now that you have now that you have 2, come on and accept the award and tell us why you aren't a grit of the week merchant. Or are you just going out there trying to get grits of the week? Like, you don't care about the score of the game. You're trying to get grit of the week. It might be the case.
Really, if you are, it just shows that you embody grit and you hustle and you grind and you get dirty. And so, that's fine with me. If you're gonna be a grit of the week merchant, you're okay in my book.
Yeah, exactly. So, shout out to Eminem and Troy Melton for getting grits of the week. That's back-to-back weeks. We have some pretty different guys, or I guess that was a few weeks ago. We had different guys, but. All right, that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. And if you're into streaming and or gaming, take a second, jump over to the Party Chat podcast, our other podcast show under Mic Drop Studios. Give them a listen. They're doing great stuff every single week. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. Again, that number is 313-306-7939. And if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying so. And again, make sure you guys drop all your recommendations for the best wings and beer and best places in Detroit to watch a game, as I will be going through different areas and different places for the NFL season, getting those ready. So make sure you guys go follow us on social media, drop us a line, make sure you let us know where we should go. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar. Let's go Tigers.
It's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make it